Hello. Good afternoon, South by Southwest. How y'all feeling? Yeah? Everybody had their little lunch break, have something in the belly, got a little bit of energy, maybe a little caffeine? Yeah? Everyone's feeling hyped? How has everyone's South by been so far? Awesome. So this is a packed crowd. I have a feeling you know what we're going to be talking about today. It's a little thing called AI. Anybody heard about it? I don't think it's too much of a theme here at South by yet this year. But today's conversation on AI is going to be a little bit different. So much of the conversations that are going on in these rooms at the conference this year are talking about the digital world and what does the future of AI look like when it comes to your LLMs, when it comes to your chat GPT. But we're going to take it to the next level today. We're going to be talking about when AI leaps out of the digital world, out of the cage, and comes into the physical world. We're going to be talking about robots. We have some of the most esteemed panelists. I can't believe I get to be up here on the stage with them. A little bit nervous. We have the actual inventor of the World Wide Web here. And we're going to be talking about what is that next level going to look like? How close is that future? I don't know about you all, but I cannot wait to see what is in store. So with that being said, I am very honored to welcome up today's esteemed panelists. Welcome up to the stage.
Wow. Wow.
Keep the hype going.
Yeah, full crowd.
Look at that. You're like rock stars.
Wow.
We've
Love
got the robotics rock stars here. So let's take a
Fantastic.
seat and welcome everyone. How's everybody feeling?
Great.
Great.
So I
what a
am
crowd.
very excited. I'm going to read a little bit of information about each of our folks that are up here because, to be totally honest, I don't even think a few sentences can do any of you justice. So we're going to start with Ty Brady on the end here. Ty is the chief roboticist at Amazon. Wow. He has been there for quite some time with over 30 years of experience.
You just say 30 plus now.
30 plus?
Yeah, 30 plus.
Wow. Are we like heading towards 40 yet?
30 plus.
30 plus, okay. So Ty's our 30 plus. He just turned 39, as we all know. In designing and deploying state-of-the-art robots, he leads moonshot research and technology, driving innovation that keeps Amazon a global leader in robotics. So welcome, Ty.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Next, we have Dr. Andrea Tomaz, who is the CEO and co-founder of Diligent Robotics here locally in Austin. She's a leading expert in AI and social robotics with 20 plus years of experience. Did you start when you were 9? Including a PhD from MIT and tenure as professor of robotics at UT Austin. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And next we have Sir Tim Berners-Lee, a man that needs absolutely no introduction. I'm sure you have some fans here in the audience. Yeah, you know. So I'm sure many people's careers were actually started because of your innovation. So Sir Tim is an English computer scientist, best known as the inventor of the World Wide Web. Come on, we got to give it up for that. And the former 3Com Founders Chair at the MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. He co-founded Inrupt and serves as their CTO. And in September, he'll be publishing his upcoming book, This Is for Everyone. Welcome, Tim. I can't wait to hear about the book. And lastly, Dr. Anirudh, one of the world's foremost thought leaders in AI and digital twins. That's a really interesting area. And a pioneer in the application of simulation to the engineering design of silicon and systems, and the president and CEO of Cadence. How are you?
Good, good.
All right. So nothing to be nervous about here, but we've pretty much got all of our world leaders in robotics. I'm really excited to get into all of today's topics. I think we're going to start with you, Anirudh. So it feels kind of like we've talked about robotics for decades, some of you. I know, Ty, backstage, we were saying, you were seeing this when you were a child,
I
right?
was programming in the 70s, and you're like, how's that possible? It was possible.
It was,
Like,
okay, we're gonna have to hear more about that. It feels like suddenly it's all happening now. So how would you characterize and contextualize what the dawn of physical AI is and what it means? Obviously, we're here today in Austin, which is a major semiconductor center of excellence. So first, perhaps tell us a little bit about what is the dawn of physical AI, and then specifically, why is Austin pivotal to this?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks for being here. I mean, physical AI is, of course, robotics, but it's a lot more than that, right? I mean, I think physical AI at the highest level is robots, drones, cars, any kind of autonomous system, okay? And AI or any new technology in my mind has like several phases. So even the internet, right? The first phase is the infrastructure phase. So like we're building the networking for the internet. The second phase is like applying it to current products. And then the third phase is applying it to new things. Like for the internet, it created new business models like Uber or Facebook. And always the third phase is the biggest and the most exciting. So the question is like, what is those phases in AI? And of course, we started last few years with the infrastructure phase, which is mostly in the data center. And that is big because AI requires a lot of compute, as we all know, GPUs and all that. And then I think the first kind of phase will be infrastructure plus agentic AI, which what you were saying is the digital kind of AI. And I think that will be exciting. But I think the second phase will definitely be physical AI, which will generate new applications. And the market is in trillions of dollars. Because for AI to be really monetizable, some applications have to be in trillions of dollars. Yeah. Because we are spending already hundreds of billions of dollars. So I think that there's a big chance that physical AI will be that big. And then to me, the third phase will be sciences AI, which is like material sciences, life sciences, drug discovery. But to me, that's like a little bit further out, 5 to 10 years out. If the infrastructure agentic phase is right now, in the next few years, I think physical AI can be in the next 2 to 7 years and can be one of the most exciting applications of AI.
2 to 7, wow. Would everyone agree with 2 to 7?
Yeah. I mean, some of it is already happening, but in terms of, and of course, if you listen to Tesla, it's already happening this year.
Yeah.
But
They're remote controlling those, aren't they?
And then there are a lot of robots already used in industrial applications. But I think in terms of reaching overall society impact, I think it's a few years out. But this is a good time to talk about it.
I would go as strong as physical AI is here.
Mm-hmm. It's here?
Here and now.
Okay. 0 to 7.
Yeah.
It's today.
Okay. And Dr. Andrew?
I would agree with that. I mean, we have physical AI working in hospitals today, and I think we're going to continue to see the skills of physical AI be kind of upskilled more and more and more. That's what we kind of think about. Like the infrastructure phase, you could think of, robots that are in Amazon warehouses or that we have deployed in hospitals. They have a particular set of capabilities now, and as we really understand how to leverage AI more and more in kind of multi-sensory control situations, those agents are just going to get more and more upskilled.
Absolutely. So Anirudh, why Austin? What makes South by such a incredibly pivotal place to have this conversation?
I mean, first of all, Austin is cool.
I think we all agree. Austin's cool.
And I think the cool thing about South by Southwest is multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
And I think physical AI by nature will be multidisciplinary, and the effect will be multidisciplinary. So.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about from cages to the real world, which is such a provocative way to...
You're coming down here, aren't you?
Oh, I am going down there, Ty. Of course I am. You said it. You said robots are here. Obviously, chief roboticist at Amazon. If something's happening, you're probably seeing it. So tell us a little bit about how are the robots actually being deployed today in ways perhaps we don't even know.
Sure. It's quite an honor, first of all, to be here. So thank you. And what a crowd that we have out here. Fantastic. I love that. Physical AI is here. It just, in the simple act of getting the package delivered to your door, we aim to have the world's largest selection of goods at a low cost with the ultimate customer convenience. And we do that through two key ingredients. First of our amazing frontline employees, but they're empowered with our robotics, with physical AI systems that augment and extend their own capabilities. And it turns out that 75% of any package that's actually delivered to your door has actually gone through one of our robotics and automation systems. So we could not have grown to the scale that we've had without really this symphony of people and machines working together in a way that extends human capability and allows people to focus more on what matters. So when you scale, and when we ship a few packages, we ship billions and billions of packages every year, when you bring something cutting edge to scale, and particularly a really large scale, you have to really have a world-class mindset. And the mindset that we have is to put people at the center of the robotics universe. The mindset that we have is to allow people to have the tools in order to do their job more efficiently, more productively, and also more safely. And we have really, I think, achieved that mission. We have the world's largest fleet of robotics mobile drives out there, more than 750,000 drive units that are in the field today. We manufacture all of those drives in the United States, just outside of Boston, where I'm based. We build every single one of those, and we're deploying them really at an incredible scale globally. The pioneering work that our women and men have done is truly outstanding. It's an honor to be here on the panel with all of you, in that we are in an unprecedented time. You were kind because you said 30 plus years. I learned to program in the 70s. I fell in love with R2-D2. I thought R2-D2 was an amazing robot. I aspired towards that. I love space. But my goal was really how can robotics enable people to do amazing things like go to other planets and even ship packages and e-commerce. And I think that we're getting there through the applied nature of Amazon. It's applied.
Yeah.
We don't come up with a technology and go, how can we apply this technology to something? We start with what problem are we trying to solve first and foremost, and then how can we apply robotics to solve that problem? And that, what I call technology development with project context, is what has driven us to be world-class pioneers in physical AI.
I really liked how you described it as a symphony of humans and machines. I think that's such a poignant way to describe what physical AI is, because so much of the information and press coverage you see is machines are going to take your job, but really they are working harmoniously with human beings.
Absolutely. If you reframe your mindset with machines, that machines allow us to be more human, machines should allow us to be more capable, and the burden is on us roboticists to make them simple and easy to use, to make them have utility that allows you to perform, whether it's at work, to be more productive, or frankly, even in your home, to be more connected to one another. Yeah. Right? So a machine that is really complicated is not going to be used. And this versus mentality is the wrong mentality. Right? There's no such thing as 100% automation. It does not exist. It will never exist. Right? There is the beauty of the human potential and what people can do and what they're capable of, and augmenting and allowing people to be more intelligent through their machines, allowing people to be more human, to be more Jedi through their machines, is the way to go. And we're seeing that inside of our fulfillment centers day in, day out. We actually just launched a next generation fulfillment center in Shreveport. Has 10 times the amount of robotics that we've ever put inside one fulfillment center, and it's allowing us to process orders 25% faster. And we're reducing the cost to serve, which is the all-in cost that we can pass at 25% lower. So we can pass a lower cost on to our customer, we can have a larger selection of goods, and it's this balance, it's this harmonious relationship of augmenting human capability with machines to do the job.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
Yeah, come on, I just had to throw that, right? R2-D2 references. So, you know, Sir Tim, I see you there kind of intaking this conversation that probably sounds familiar because you've seen this kind of innovation and drastic disruption happen before. So I'm curious, in obviously your time in the World Wide Web and building what that entirely new precipice looked like, where's the overlap to what we're seeing today, or perhaps what's the contrast? Or How does it remind you?
So, yep, in some ways, there are some ways which there's a lot of parallels, some ways in which they're quite different. Starting the World Wide Web, I had to explain to everybody about it. Here, and so here we've got South West, where we're learning about, we're tracking the way robots and AI, I guess since the ChatGPT moment, a lot of people have been tracking AI. But there are, similarly, with the web and with AI, there's this problem of the paradigm shift, the idea that beforehand we don't have the vocabulary for talking about the final state. So we can't, when we try to discuss what's the AI world we want, because it doesn't exist and we don't have any, unless we've got some really good sci-fi books, we don't have anything about it, we don't have the vocabulary for talking about it. Same with now you can talk to kids about, it's 3 clicks away on the web and they'll know what you mean. But before, the idea of a click as taking you from one document to another didn't work. So explaining that if you put something onto the World Wide Web, when you click on that link, it could go anywhere in the world. Just people wouldn't understand it. So the paradigm shift is part of it. But there are some other ways in which it's different. One of the first things we did was we got together. There was Microsoft and Netscape were battling over the first browser, and IBM was thinking about getting in there, and all these companies were building the web together, and they built it together. We made the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, is a club of companies that are all doing this. And they and all of the leading people, the best people making that innovation to bring the web from here to here, they all met together under one virtual roof, and often under one physical roof at the AC meetings. And so that WCC is something which was a really crucial part of making the web one web, of making common decisions about how HTML should go. How should style sheets go? Should they be separate from the HTML and so on? Those decisions were made by the community. And they were made by the community in this institution, which we sort of created instantly. I don't see that looking around the AI scene. Right? I see OpenAI, I see each of the big companies with their LLMs, very competitive, all trying to race each other, but I don't see something like a big institution where they're all meeting and working together. So maybe that's a suggestion I bring from the web years. Build something like WCC, or even something like CERN, frankly. When I developed the web, I was working at CERN, and CERN had been put together in order to solve the problem of how to do nuclear research in a situation where you could keep some brakes on it if necessary. And that was, CERN was an international organization you could make. And CERN is a great place. We have it for nuclear physics. We don't have it for AI, but we could make one of those for AI too.
Yeah.
It's fascinating that you bring that up, because in 2017, I remember I was doing work with Sam Altman with OpenAI when it was a nonprofit, and so much of his vision of what he was describing was more like that before it really started to become the for-profit kind of VC-backed race. I'm curious just kind of to double-click on that. You've got open source models coming out of other parts of the world. Do you think that perhaps might be a better direction than the closed models?
I think that the open source, the fact that it's just come out of China, DeepSeek, I think demonstrates that if you can reckon without, it's foolish to try to imagine you can build a world without open source models, because open source exists, and because connectivity exists. We're all connected together. We're all on the internet. If you have a bunch of people in one region you think are going to be at one state in the development, and it's not going to percolate through to other people, and you're not going to find open source developments happening, then I think you're crazy. So we have to assume that's maybe the problem the engineering problem of putting together this AI you're building will actually be solved by somebody, is being solved by somebody right now, and you wake up tomorrow morning and there'll be an open source solution for it out there which you can pick up. So open source is a really powerful part of the solution.
One thing to add there, when the transition goes from infrastructure to physical AI or agentic AI, or sciences AI. I mean, infrastructure by nature is horizontal, like a LLM model or a compute. But physical AI by nature is vertical. So the game is going to move from horizontal models to vertical applications, which are domain specific, like robots or drones. So by nature in that transition, the horizontal technology is commoditized. So I don't think it will be that important what the model is. There will be a lot of good models, whether they're open source or closed source. The real value is in the vertical application, whether it's life sciences or delivery or so I think that's the transition that's happening now.
I'll share a personal story that I was at MIT in 1990. I was a fresh research engineer at the institute, as we like to say. And we did, in robotics, we did most of our work over bulletin boards. I don't know if I was on my Sun Microsystems computer, dialing into bulletin boards. And when the web came along, it was a revolutionary period, at least in my life, in that I could connect to not only others, because we were connected at MIT through the Athena cluster, like we did connect computers at MIT, but to go more nationally and more globally was a really big deal because it was learning and sharing. And I think that there's an analogy for AI here. I'm really proud of the work that we do inside AWS. I think we allow hundreds of thousands of companies to quickly come up to speed on with an AI tool set that is very capable and very model ready for their own particular needs. But the sharing is it's really a key part. Now, I still like to think that in robotics, we are a small community. We're actually in the very early stages of physical AI. We tend to know each other, but I'm really enthusiastic about what I see with our next generation, with the accessibility of robotics, right? The fact that you can get robotics kits to young girls, young boys that want to learn how to build things, and then you can continue to grow that throughout your career, your exposure, inclusive of when you want to do your own startup, when you want to be, inside a company like Amazon. We use AWS. We use the same tool set that's available to others. But it's that connectivity that is really probably the most important thing. It really is that we can share with each other what is happening.
How you can build.
How you can build.
It's all about building. So we've talked a lot about theories and what is going to happen, but I think, Dr. Andrea, what you're doing, people would be surprised to know how much of this is actually already being employed right now in the world. And while Ty has so much that's going on behind the scenes at Amazon, you actually might be one of the first places where people are interfacing with this physical AI. So could you share a little bit about what you're doing in the healthcare space? And as everyone knows, healthcare is a place where we need significant cost reduction and significant innovation to happen because we are an aging population and there's a lot of people. So what are you doing currently in healthcare and how is that going to be a big part of the future?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. I think just echoing, I think one of the reasons that I wanted to start a company to impact healthcare is it's just one of society's biggest challenges, and I think if we're going to try to tackle the big problems, we gotta go there. So we are thinking about, and I think this also hits on some of what Anud was getting at, that there's excitement and a lot of hype and a lot of maybe research and examples and demonstrations of what robots could be, one day. But then, when you look at putting a real product to work, Ty mentioned some of this as well. It's you have to think about the full kind of end-to-end problem that you're solving. So what we have is a robot called Moxie that is doing delivery tasks, so transporting things inside of hospitals for frontline care team members. So we're making sure that nurses don't have to run to the pharmacy to get a medication for their patient, that the ED doctor doesn't have to run to the lab to get a sample processed, lightweight equipment, supplies. you would be amazed at the amount of kind of manual running around that our really precious healthcare workers are doing every day. So our latest statistic is that our Moxie robots have done about 1 million of these transport tasks, and that sort of equates to 1.5 billion steps that nurses and pharmacists didn't have to do. So,
way to go.
Excited about that.
Awesome.
And I would be remiss if I did not ask you to describe what the robot looks like, because Moxie is, she looks like, well, I'll let you share.
So we like to say Moxie is a semi-humanoid, since everyone's talking about humanoids all the time. But Moxie rolls around on a wheeled base and has like a storage, he has drawers to lock and carry things around, but then has a torso and we think a pretty cute head that is really about being kind of socially appropriate. We want to have the robot be something that's kind of fun and nice to have around. And very importantly, the robot has an arm, because an arm is something that really helps a robot be this general purpose device that can move around the world and make changes to the world. And so our robot is moving around, making, doing these transport tasks every day, making really interesting use of the same kinds of generative AI models that you find in ChatGPT that are processing language tokens and maybe image tokens on the internet. That same technology applies to robotics, but it's just a different kind of data. It's multimodal sensors that are positioned in weird ways that you would never see camera images like on the internet. So the data that you need for robotic AI models is just fundamentally different, and usually has to be collected on the robot itself. And so that's, I think, some of the interesting thing that we're seeing, be able to kind of take some of these models. We have now over 100 robots deployed, so we can pretty quickly kind of take a new model that is, this is kind of to the infrastructure phase going on to the product phase. Like, we're kind of agnostic to what's the best model that's out there. We can throw 100 robots worth of data on it at a new model, and in about a week we could kind of try out anything new that comes along.
So for folks that remember, who remembers the Jetsons? Do y'all remember Rosie? That's what Moxie reminds me of. So everyone has to go look up what Moxie looks like. She really does look a bit like Rosie.
A little bit.
Do you give her a gender?
Well, no, Moxie is whatever you want.
Moxie's a 2025,
yeah.
No,
they're usually in a pack, so you call them they.
They, okay. Moxie's a they. But it is so funny that you chose to avoid the uncanny valley. I think that's one of the things that people with robotics, it scares them a little bit. The uncanny valley is that when something looks almost human-like, but not fully human, and it gives you kind of the ick a little bit. I noticed that you fully leaned into that softer, sweeter approach.
Absolutely. And even more than that, we explicitly kind of limit the use of how much natural language Moxie uses, because we didn't want to kind of set that expectation of human level intelligence. So the robot does actually, Moxie makes more R2-D2 like sounds than C3PO, I would say. So I also really love that kind of interaction of, especially if it's, this is a transport robot. It's transporting things around. You're not supposed to stop it in the hallway and have a philosophical discussion about life.
I'm sure someone will try.
People try, yeah.
So today's conversation also is very timely, because in this geopolitical climate that we're in, there's a lot of discussion about bringing jobs back to the United States. We're talking about the onshoring and this renaissance that the United States is going to have of we're going to start to build again. The theme of today's conversation is very much building. So I'm curious, I'll start with you first, Anirudh, and then perhaps Sir Tim, you could chime in. But in terms of physical AI, how do you see that playing into the onshoring of American jobs and what it's going to mean for America to build again?
Oh, it's a great opportunity. I think great opportunities for all countries, definitely the US. And of course, robots will be big, right? And we have like 2 great experts on robots. But first, it may even be cars, and you can call car a robot to some extent. But And I think, and then drones, right? Like in defense, I mean, drones will go to completely already transforming defense. So these are all like multi-trillion-dollar industries. Your car industry is, there are 100 million cars sold per year. Each car is $30,000 to $40,000 on average. So that's $3 to $4 trillion. That's going to completely transform, right? So that's, of course, Tesla, Rivian. And then if you look in China, there are like 5 or 6, I'm sure all of you know, 5 or 6 big, EV, AV companies like BYD, NIO, XPeng. And they're all designing their own cars, their own autonomous systems. So I think this is a big renaissance, because this is in trillions of dollars. And even robots without humanoid robots could be in trillions of dollars. And then drones itself is, and especially starting with defense, is a big. So I think all countries will have to do, and that's what we are seeing. And definitely for US, this is a big opportunity. Yeah.
Do you think that the current discussion around, let's say the tariffs do take place, we're talking about specifically cars coming back to the United States from Mexico, do you think that physical AI would be a part of that as well?
Well, I don't know how much I want to comment on tariffs and all, but I think it's more a technology thing, and the word always finds the right solution given the constraints of tariffs. So I think that is too new, and see how that progresses. But of course, cars is a big part of the US economy, big part of a lot of economies, and some manufacturing may or may not change. And these things don't change that fast anyway, even if there are tariffs. The main thing in car industry is that it will be completely transformed from, all this anyway, the amount of parts that in an electric car versus a regular car, amount of automation that. So I think that $3 to $4 trillion is going to be completely transformed in the next several years. So.
Yeah, and a good little Rivian plug here.
I have a Rivian. It's good.
You have a Rivian.
Yeah,
do you have the
double
SUV?
plug?
Yeah, I love Rivian. I used to have Tesla for a long time, and I have a Rivian now. They're both great cars. Yeah. So.
I just sold my Mach-E.
But okay, talking about cars. Okay, so I was in China in November. I mean, the amount of cars in China is remarkable. Like you heard about BYD, right? But people think like they are like not expensive cars. But BYD you should look it up if you don't already know, has a luxury division called Yangwang, YANGWANG. It's truly remarkable cars. They have a sports car and they have a SUV that goes in water. Okay, so the amount
Amphibious cars?
It's just amazing. Yeah. So the car industry by itself is going to transform, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
But do they drive themselves? Do these cars drive themselves?
Oh, they're all working on that, right? They all have like some amount of self-driving,
Yeah, but just as an ordinary sort of spectator to all this, remember that all these people out here were told years ago that they should expect self-driving cars, and it didn't happen. So there's so many. You look at ChatGPT, you think, wow, AI is right here, but then you think, wait a moment, we still don't have self-driving cars, unless people are lucky. Who's used a self-driving car?
There's Waymos outside.
Yeah. We're in the right city. If you're in London, wouldn't work.
Yeah,
okay.
Or Amazon plug.
Yes.
They're creeping in, but you have to be, obviously we have to be very careful about making predictions, and it's very difficult to understand what's going to be difficult and what's going to be easy. And so self-driving cars have taken a long time, and there's been something I've been after for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I represented Zoox, Waymo, Cruise, all of them. In 2017, we were writing papers about what are we going to do with this disruption that's coming. We thought that the trucking industry was going to be gone within 5 years. That was in 2017. And now there's only one permitted company in all of the United States, Google, Waymo, that's even having self-driving cars on the road.
It's to be seen, but I think AI can have a profound effect on self-driving. So, AI is good at a lot of things, and people say, well, AI will be super intelligent, and maybe, that's to be seen. But what AI is really good at, all this Gen AI in the last few years, is very good at perception, for talking and seeing. Okay, that's going to have a profound impact on physical AI and on cars. So that's why, it's right. If self-driving happens, that's the real massive application of AI. But that's different than 2017. This whole Gen AI is different. So that's why Waymo is finally successful. Tesla is close to being successful. So I think that will be the key test in the next few years. And if that happens, that's transformational, as you know. And then it applies to drones and robots and all of other things. So self-driving may be the poster child of physical AI if it's successful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd have a different opinion.
Okay, hot take. Let's go, Ty.
The hot take is when robotics is effective, it's blended into the background. It's really not even the topic of conversation. It's just doing its job so well that it's enabling you to do new things. And the hot take is that when we master the fundamentals of physical AI through application, that then you can put those together like Lego blocks, and it doesn't have to be in e-commerce. It can be in agriculture. It can be in the healthcare industry. It can be in automotive, of course. But it's the small things. It's something as simple as identifying an object quickly, and we're doing that at incredible scale with hundreds of millions of different objects. That when you get that mastery, when you understand how to put those together, as a roboticist, we always think about a system, and we can put this system together that enables more human creativity. That's the one that's going to come. So I love. There's a quote that I would like to share with everyone. It's by Roy Amara, who is a futurist, and his quote goes something like this: "We tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short run, and underestimate the effect of technology in the long run." So I think we're a little bit in the overestimation part, but we're just kind of making our way very steadily over 50 years. We think long term, for sure. Over 50 years since the advent of the computer, since the personal computer, the advent of the web, low-cost sensors and actuators, machine learning systems coming in. We finally have brought the body that we've worked 50 years on bringing to the stage with the mind.
Yeah.
So mind and body connected to do a task in service of people is what's going to sneak up on you. It's going to be here, and will be then adopted and used, and that will further robotics for extending human capability. Even more than e-commerce. I'm saying more than just picking goods, delivering goods, packing goods, storing goods. I'm saying more than that we will see that in your homes. We will see that before the big marquee moment of, George Jetson, right?
Yeah.
My flying car, where's my flying car, right? We're going to see that the here and now. And I think if I were to say anything to the folks that are here, is I've seen a lot of technologies in my time. I have seen quite a few. And what not only what can be in physical AI, but actually what it is that we're doing in physical AI, it's the most transformative technologies that I've ever witnessed, right?
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
And you take that and you couple that with, if you're an optimist the way that I am, I believe in the power of people, that when you have technology that it enables people, most people are good. Like, I really believe that in my heart of hearts. Like, most people have really good intentions and want to do the right thing for planet Earth, want to do for their community, for their loved ones, that when we bring those together, some great things that can be done. And we're just starting out. We're just starting out with this very specific application in e-commerce. But the women and men that are doing that pioneering work will then work in other sectors and other parts of society, and it's going to be just as transformative. And I don't want to be like the hype guy to overhype it, but it's going to be just as transformative as the computer was in 1950. So if it was 1950s and I'm sitting here in my cool tweed suit, I'd be talking about, wow, I think the computer's going to be a pretty big deal. And folks would be like, well, you consider the chalkboard. I can consider that, but it's going to be a pretty big deal. And that's where I am with physical AI, because it's agents, it's the agency of human extension in the real world, doing real things for us, not just in the digital domain, right? And it just starts with a simple application. The very simplest of application. If you start there and you build and you scale from there,
Yeah.
you are now unlocking the keys to the kingdom.
Absolutely. And I think you know, from a personal perspective, for anyone that follows me on LinkedIn, you'd know I talk about innovation and accessibility because my father is blind. I was raised by a blind man. And when we first started talking about Waymos and autonomous vehicles coming out, my father called me and he said, Jenny, I can finally drive.
Love it.
That's cool.
You know, because that's the true remarkable capabilities of physical AI. My father's entire life is controlled by technology. When you have no vision, you need to rely on that type of technology. So the transformative nature of what it can do, it's night and day. It's the difference between my dad having a quality of life, having the ability to leave the home and not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm curious, you know, Dr. Andrea, you're working in that impact kind of space, and what are you kind of seeing, and what's on the horizon for what you want to do? What's your big, very audacious goal?
I mean, I think just kind of building on this this conversation around, I think what is very exciting is, I mean, I guess it's the title of the panel, Getting Out of the Cages, but putting robots, even for the simplest of tasks, in a busy, dynamic human environment is hard. It's very, very hard because you need to have the ability to take in and perceive the world very, very quickly, understand what's changing around me. Even just like going around in this conference center, robots would have a lot. They have to like perceive and understand and then, you know, quickly decide what to do. And so that's where these new models and these new techniques that we're kind of seeing this watershed moment of being able to even think about putting robots into places where there are a lot of people who create a lot of dynamics. And I think those are some of the most exciting places that we're going to see robotic applications applied, is where you can, you know, put a robot in an environment where you have a lot of people that it has to understand and interact with. It's the way that we're going to get robots to be able to truly kind of augment people's jobs. You know, we have in a lot of different places in the economy, there are shortages of people to do the jobs that we need them to do. I mean, healthcare is definitely one of them. And so it's great to think about the augmentation aspect. So robots plus people working together, that is going to be, you know, a big part of how robots can have a huge impact in society.
So let's paint a picture for everyone. Let's say it's 10 years from now, and you know, diligent robotics has taken off, and you're going to go visit your loved one in a hospital. What would we see different? What's your big vision?
Yeah, so I think that I am a big fan of robots not necessarily having a single form factor, but you're probably going to see a lot of different kinds of robots that you may not even think of as robots, because they are blending into the background. But you'll certainly have robots in the hospital that are, you know, designed for having more conversational interactions, or, you know, taking, you know, doing intake as you're, you know, showing you where you're supposed to go when you know, come in to have a procedure. I also think that there is, you know, my vision is that when you leave the hospital and you're going into, you just had knee surgery, you're going to have a hard time getting around your house for about 6 months. Maybe the hospital is the one who sends you home with a robot that's specifically for helping you with that care plan. I think that's the kind of path to getting from hospital to the home that I think is super exciting.
And you think even about, I'm sure many of you here are in the sandwich generation where you've got your own little ones and you've got your parents you're taking care of, right? That's a crucial impact on the economy of how can we help people age in place? Memory care, right? I mean, with the Alzheimer's epidemic taking off, like, could robots even have a position in that and helping us keep our parents?
I mean, I think that's the dream. That's a vision that I would love to see robots playing that augmentation role, and it's assistive, it's augmentation, and it's, you know, being what, you know, your dad's a perfect example. Like, if there could be, you know, robotics and automation that are helping people feel more independent, that's a win.
Yeah, I can tell you the single greatest thing that ever changed my father's life was simply the Google Home. Just simply he connected to the internet. He finally caught up to the rest of us by just being able to dictate his searches online. So
not a bad invention, the internet, huh?
Yeah, not
Just
bad.
saying.
Yeah.
not bad.
It's pretty incredible. I'm curious. So, do you think humanoid robots? Maybe Ty,
Sure.
you can kind of share your thoughts. Like, do you think that's going to be what's next?
So I think about function first before form, right? What's the function that so I will go outside my lane here. I'll go into healthcare. My father's 83 years old. He had a stroke. He has limited mobility, and I just dream of the day that could help him be more independent in his home. And what's the right function for that? So I don't immediately go to a humanoid form. I go to what's the function. So if it's to help lift him and put him into bed, then we're going to find that function first and do that really, really well. The thing that really needs to be appreciated in robotics is you can't half do it. You can't just kind of like, it's a YouTube moment, fantastic, cut, that didn't work, cut that, that one worked, great, I'm going to post that. The business that I'm in is that this has to work 99.999% of the time, uptime, and really work. And that's the goal that I aspire our team to be at, the world-class pioneers in collaborative robotics. And when you do that, then it's trusted more, it's helping you more, it's more intuitive, it's more clear to use, but it's not a simple job. We will obsess about the screens and what the user interface will be. We'll obsess about the behavior of the robots, of how they work around people. We have a cute little robot, has eyes, R2-D2 sounds, no coincidence, called Proteus that is out here. Actually, we have it deployed in Houston, where it moves these big containers of goods on demand to the right truck stall at the right time. And it is it's very natural to interact with it, people to interact with it. There's no fences. It moves this in a safety certified way around. And it also understands the intent of people too. Like, does a person want to take a left or take a right, or are they walking forward? Because we want to put our machines in the human environment as compared to having people work in the machine environment. And it's a major change. And if you do it right, you have to go to the lengths to actually do it excruciatingly, like really, really painfully right, to make it simple, right? It's easy to do complex, it's hard to do simple. So we work to make things simple and approachable.
Yeah, I remember working with the chief safety officer at Zoox before the acquisition to Amazon, and you have to have the autonomous vehicle correct 100% of the time. Because who hears about, if there's a Tesla self-driving accident, it's in the news forever, and people go, oh no, they're not safe. Yet 96% of fatalities in cars are from human error, right? But suddenly, because the robot is doing it and it misses one single time, you could cancel an entire product.
Yeah, now I will say that we have what's called the Amazon Industrial Innovation Fund. It's $1 billion fund that we put towards startups that are interested in robotics and physical AI. We have invested in humanoid companies. I'm interested in the bipedal, particularly the bipedal nature of what bipedalism can do, but it's really more towards the mobility capability, right? So wheels and legs and quadrupeds and bipedals, they're all mobility agents in order to bring a robot to the task. And then you have this also very hard job, and again, I'm really proud of the team and what they've done. Then you get to the manipulation task. So first is I have to get to where I want to go, and then when you get there, sure, I can just stand there, but you probably want to interact with whatever you're doing. For us, we want to be able to pick objects and identify objects. So then we really start to think about the end effectors, or the hands, if you want to think about that in robotics, and what's the right way to do that. We've deployed at scale end effectors that have done more than 3 billion touches. We can classify hundreds of millions of different objects and do the grasp affordance for those. But it's still very much early days. So, but I can see this union of mobile manipulation coming that doesn't necessarily have to be humanoid. It could be, or we're still open and we're still in this understanding phase. But mobile manipulation, I believe, is really going to play out here in the next few years based on the signals that I see inside of Amazon on our mobility capabilities, the world's largest fleet of mobile robots out there, and then also these manipulation capabilities that I think are really emerging with the advent of AI.
Wow, there's
a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a pretty incredible amount of things. I'm curious, Sir Tim, you've seen a lot of innovation. Like how's this all making you feel? How do you?
So
Optimism?
it's making me feel great when I see robots get smarter and smarter. There's always been a question, even with anything that I use, business software or in particular an AI. The question is, who does it work for? So it's easy. All your robots will work for Amazon. And so they can they're all responsible for. If one of your robots that comes, suppose I accept, it delivers a package and then I say, yeah, you can stay. So now I've got a robot, maybe it could be pretty helpful because it could drift into my house and it could start helping me at home. But it doesn't work for me. If I ask it, if I say to her, hey, then I need some more washing, can you get me some more washing powder? Guess who it will order the washing powder from? It'll order it from Amazon. Because it actually works for Amazon.
It's a great choice.
Right, okay. And so, can I have a robot that actually works for me? Okay, I've got a robot. I've got one, there's one that works for Apple, there's one that works for Amazon, but I want one that works for me. And so I want software that works for me, and I want, and so when I've discussed this with people, like in workshops, they've thought about it and they said, actually, well, you know what? My doctor works for me, and my lawyer works for me, and so we're used to that. We have the culture that my doctor works for me, and the doctor, your doctor may be paid by the university or maybe paid by the healthcare provider, but they work for the patient in the sense that they're trying to make the choices. So I want AIs that work for me, make the choices that I would make. I don't want an AI which is trying to sell me something. I don't want an AI when I say, which running shoes should I buy? And it immediately runs off, it runs off a 100 millisecond real-time auction out there among all the running shoe manufacturers it can get, and it gets in the best deal for it. No, best deal for me. So the question about for every AI, who does it work for? Yeah. If your stuff drifts home into physical AI, make sure it works for the patient, works for the individual. That means it works for the patient, just like the doctor do at the moment. So that's always ask about that. About any AI, who do you work for?
Who's your owner?
Whose better interests are you pursuing in your existence and your decisions?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've even seen this with the LLMs, won't give you all the same information. I think oftentimes you're probably going to have a lot of them that are getting government funded, probably, because obviously from a utility perspective, the government's going to see them as less doctors for NHS and more robotics being used, right? It's going to be a cost-saving mechanism.
I think it's such a good thought. It's not only who does it work for, but where are you getting your data from? Mm-hmm. And I think we're just in such the early stages right now. We are customer obsessed inside of Amazon. We see the need for that. We have built an incredible cloud structure when it comes to AWS that can enable both a responsible and accountable AI system that can be deployed into physical AI and into robotics. I think that's what customers demand, and I think that's very much the side that we're on, where we're customer obsessed, and we want folks to be able to implement and build systems that work for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think another aspect of what you're getting at, Sir Tim, is that we see how AI it's the result of the data that it's seen, and so if what if what you want, or if what you want out of that AI model is data that it hasn't seen yet, then you're not going to feel like that AI is working for you. So I think, ways, if we can, as a field, make sure that, yes, I can have a general capability, but it's very easy to kind of fine-tune this AI or this robot to understand what I want as an individual or as a user.
Yeah. I think I love the kind of a future, if I'm putting my future hat on, where your robotics, these physical AI systems in your home or maybe at work, reflect you as well. Like they kind of, like I think if you rolled into my house, it would maybe crack a joke or two and serve you a cocktail. I like that. It'd be more my style. So if the bot can help me, the bot's going to have to match my style a little bit, right?
So the bot, if it's going to work for you, then it's got to have access to your data.
That's right.
Right. So that means if it's going to choose you running shoes, then it's got to have, if the bot actually has access to your Strava data, for example, then it knows you much better than just from chatting to you.
Absolutely.
So you chat to a bot and you ask it what running shoes to get, and if it works for you, and it has access to all of your Strava running data. Strava's a running site. Who's on Strava?
I'm on Strava.
It's a dominant monopoly, more or less, it seems. So it's about data about the exercise you've taken and the rings and things that you want, things like that. So if your AI has, and we've done tests, in fact, in my company, if you imagine you build a simulated person where the AI has access to their Strava data, their bank account data, all of their personal data, their medical data, their clinical data, and if you have all of that data, then you build a fake person which has got access to all that data, then when they ask the AI a question, it is devastatingly effective. It turns out that it turns around and says, actually, you've been running 10Ks, but I bet that you probably want to run a half K. A half marathon.
Half K would be nice.
Feel like half K. But if you're running, so just looking at your Strava, it looks as though you probably should be running half marathon. So you probably want that, but you run a lot in the woods. So you shouldn't be. You should use that for the race. So we've actually done this.
Yeah.
So you get something, a result from the AI, which is totally personalized from an AI that knows you better than you know yourself. So that's the sort of AI.
Yeah, and figuring out what data it is that AI needs to build that model. That's fascinating.
And building trust, right? Be able to inquire, where did you get this data from? Why did you say that? Like, you're building trust with.
You have to trust.
Right, and when you build that trust, then you'll use it. Like I'm sure that we use navigation apps, right? You pick your favorite navigation app on your phone. The convenience and the utility of that app is working for people, right? So I get that. That's one very small use case. But in a family setting, we're going to go to a whole nother level, for sure. In the home setting, we're going to go to a whole other level. And again, it's something I'm very proud of inside of Amazon is that we're customer obsessed when it comes to privacy, when it comes to security, when it comes to physical AI, when it comes to AI systems. Those are very much on the forefront of our mind. Again, human first.
So Anirudh, we've got a couple minutes left. Let's take her on home. We've talked about who's going to own the AI, who does it work for. What do you see physical AI doing in the next decade from an economic perspective? Like, where is the big boom going to be here in the United States?
I mean, the reason that of course, we discussed a lot of this already, but I think the physical impact can be huge in physical AI. Because right now the impact is more in the agentic AI or infrastructure, and it's like hundreds of billions of dollars already. And I think agentic AI has a good future, but the markets that physical AI serves are much, much bigger.
Yep.
Like we talked about the car industry, even the robot industry without humanoid robots already could be multiple trillions. Humanoid robots, this projection of who you talk to could be like 5-10 trillion. So these are, and then defense itself, like drones and all. So I think the impact, the scope is going to be much, much higher. And of course, there are challenges to make it happen. But I really do believe that the real monetization could happen in physical AI, and it could happen in the right time frame. And that has huge implications for US, of course, because US is leading in a lot of these software applications. See, talking about humanoid robots, okay, there are so many, if you look at the VC community and the big companies, there's so much funding for that right now, okay? And you can also buy a humanoid robot. Actually, there's a company called Unitree. You can buy a humanoid robot for $20,000, okay? And you can buy this dog for like $3,000 or $4,000.
Oh, I've seen it. It's a little creepy.
Yeah. So, but the reason it's actually very dexterous and, you know, in terms of mechanical functions, the real key is to have the AI model and the physical world model. The software is the key, which of course is US's big strength. So I think this whole, you know, the mechanical part anyway is making a lot of progress, but combine that with the AI and data-driven software model will be huge. Yeah.
Well, we could stay up here, but it's going to start yelling at us soon on the timer.
Yeah.
I hope that this conversation has inspired all of you. You're obviously all very interested in AI, but I think that there's just so much from a macroeconomic perspective that physical AI is going to touch that we're not paying attention to yet. Huge opportunity for everyone to get involved. So thank you very, very much for coming, and we hope to hear from you all soon.